Okay, so we are about to start our final part of this event. We're moving to the panel of judges. For this last panel, I'm excited to hand things over once again to my co-host, Ricardo, who will be leading this session. Let's give a warm welcome to our panelists, and I'll let, again, Ricky take it from here. So enjoy the discussion.
Thank you, good evening once again. And well, I'm glad to be back for this last part of the first day of the FRC Warm Up 2025 for what is to me my most favorite roundtable from all time, the roundtable with judges. But maybe that's because I was always part of the chairman's presentation team. So maybe that's why I love talking to judges. So welcome everyone to this final part of day one. So we have a fantastic group of 4 judges in FRC in first. So I'm just going to introduce each and every one of them, and then each one of you guys can maybe give a little more insight about your history with first and how long you've been mentoring and what's your current role and what programs in first you are judging in for this upcoming season. So first of all, we have Cameron Jacqueline. So Cameron, welcome.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? My name is Cameron Tackland. I was on FRC Team 8. I was a co-captain back in the day. So it's been a long time. I was actually at the very first Silicon Valley Regional as a spectator, just as a kid. I mentored for 8 or so years so after that, and then my life circumstances didn't have time for mentoring anymore. But recently I've had the pleasure of being a judge. And now I've been judging for 10 years, and it's been so much fun to just hear all the cool things that people get to work on. That's it.
Yep. For how long have you been involved with first, Cameron?
Involved, I guess, on the order of 20 years,
Okay.
with a couple breaks in there. Yeah, I've been around.
Yeah,
and now
you've crossed the 20-year mark, so that's great.
I only have my 10-year volunteer pin, so.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't matter. Thank you, Cameron. We'll have David Price with us. David, thank you for being in warm up.
Thank you for having me. It's definitely an honor and a privilege to be here. So, a brief overview of myself, engineering manager for GE Aerospace. I've been involved with FRC for 16 seasons now, as a judge for 11. I've also been a judge for FTC, 7 years as the judge advisor for the Michigan State Championships, and a judge for First Global since inception in 2017.
Okay, well, thank you, David. We also have Nick Hayes with us, so welcome, Nick.
Hey, thank you. So this is my 15th season of FRC and my 10th season as a mentor. I judge a couple of events a season for FRC. I'm a FTC judge advisor, FLL judge advisor, mostly in Northern California. I also am an awards mentor for Team 3501 Firebots in Sunnyvale. But I've been with a couple of different teams over time and really seen some different perspectives. But thank you so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you, Nick. And you're also a great MC. I have great memories of you on LA Original, so that's also part of your resume. Don't miss it. And finally, this wouldn't be a Mexican organized roundtable without a Mexican representative. So we have Ramferi Lozano. Welcome, Ramferi.
Thank you, Ricardo. Hi to everyone. I'm Ramferi Lozano. I've been in first since 2012 in the Ribbon Rumble season. I've been a judge in FTC, but I've been mentor, key volunteer, and FTA in FRC since my beginning of first. As Ricardo said, I'm Mexican and work at Peñoles. It's one of the sponsorship from Mexico's teams, and I've been mentoring Team 4400 since when I finished my time as team member in 2013.
All right. Thank you, Ramferi. Thank you, everyone. And I believe they sent you the list of questions I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask each one of you. So let's follow the reverse order as I introduced you. So first Ramfetti, then Nick, then David, and we end each question with you, Cameron. And to make it a little bit faster, I'm going to combine some questions so you can have a specific answer to maybe give two answers to the questions you were provided. So let's start with the basics. You've already told us who you are, how long you've been judging for first, in what category, but let's take a step even prior to that, and maybe share with us why you decided to become a judge. Many of you coming from other parts of FIRST, being team members, being mentors, why you decided to take that step into becoming a judge. So we shall begin with you, Ramfetti.
Okay, yeah. Well, the time that I was a team member and junior mentor, I saw how my team colleagues prepare to be in the interview of the judge, and how the important was that part of the speech where they had to resume all our season in minutes. And I think that's very important for the kids to learn how to, in 3-4 minutes, tell everything that all the team have done. And I like that part where they can sell the team, and they can be one of the pillars or the most important part of the team in some of the awards. And now that I'm a judge, it's very good how the team and the kids growth with the time. I really enjoy how the teams disinvolve in all the presentations, and it's kind of incredible experience that I would like to everyone try at least one time if you have been a FRC person.
Okay, thank you, Ramfetti. And we move on to you, Nick.
Yeah, I actually started judging in other FIRST programs first. So I believe First Tech Challenge, FTC, was my first time judging because they needed judges. Like that, I think is a very common story, but I came in and I was talking to teams and I just heard like how many cool things they were doing, like hearing the ways that they were approaching problems. As somebody who had not really been involved with an FTC team at that point, like it was a very different perspective. So that was where I started. And then I went, I really enjoy this. Like I've always been a person who loves talking to people and like learning from them and hearing their stories. And doing that in FTC, I went, ooh, FLL needs judges. I'm going to do that. And finally, FRC, I started judging as well because being an FRC mentor, I think it's even more valuable and like something that I think speaks to my perspective and experience a little better. But yeah, like I kind of enjoy that, you learn something every time you judge, whether it's a new perspective, a new way of solving some problem that some team did. And like I think it helps build everybody up. So not only is that something that brought me into FRC judging, but I think it's something that's kept me doing at least an event a year.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. And now we move on to David, please.
Very similar to Nick, my experience with judging started from a need. I live in Michigan, and as you probably know, Michigan has a lot of FRC teams. We actually have like 550 or so teams. A third of the high schools in the state of Michigan have an FRC team. And as it was growing, there was just simply a need for volunteers. So I kind of reluctantly signed up to be a judge for my first competition and totally got hooked. Hearing all the kids show passion about what they had done for the season and hearing so many different stories, it really, really resonated with me. But I also saw it as a wonderful opportunity for these students to develop business skills, because one of these kids is going to become, the next Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or, so forth. But if you don't have an idea of what a business plan looks like, how to do a risk analysis, or how to sell your idea, it's not going to go anywhere. So I really want to promote students learning at a young age how to develop an idea, how to develop a communication strategy, and how to sell it.
Okay, thank you, David. And finally, we have you, Cameron, please.
Yeah, so like the other judges here, it kind of started as a need for me, or at least my community needed more judges, and I volunteered. And I was a little nervous at first because, big blue shirts, it's definitely scary. But I was younger then, and that's how we learn. But it was definitely so exciting when all of the students got to share their excitement about what they were building. It frankly reinvigorated me in some of my own things that I was looking at. Definitely new perspectives has always been really wonderful. I myself am a very technical-minded person, but being a judge, it also forces us to look at the whole picture. Everything is a lot more than about robots. What's the saying? And all of the business things, everything that feeds into it. Having my technical background as the final goal, it's still very important, all the teamwork, all of the different decisions that go into getting to this final robot that achieves hopefully the goals that you set out for. And it's just really wonderful seeing all the innovative ways that people have come together and make something happen.
Okay, thank you, Cameron. And yes, as you said it, for many students, including some of us and maybe myself, when being in an event and having the judges visit you and your pit was probably one of the most frightening experiences of your life. You sometimes didn't know how to react, or you overreacted, or you just simply went black and just stay there hoping for your co-partner to answer to the questions of the judges. So it's good that we have you here today. So all of the students who are watching us can see in their screens that judges are just passionate people for FIRST and people that has been involved for many, many years and who is eager to listen to you, to listen to your amazing project and to listen how you are impacting your community via FIRST. So, and this is done mainly through questions made by the judges to the students, call it in the pits, in the interview room, in your regional events, in your district events, in champs. So let's talk about the questions you ask students and how students answer those questions. So I'm going to combine 3 questions here, and feel free to give your answer maybe more focused on one specific question, or maybe on the 3 of them. So I'm going to combine 3 questions, which are first, and I'm going to start with the most tricky one. Do judges know when students are making things up? Also, what should students do if they are asked the question they don't know the answer to? And finally, how much detail they should go into when answering a question made by a judge. So those are the 3 questions, and feel free to answer them however you like. So Ranferi, please.
Yeah. Well, the first thing, if students are making things up, I think the judges can know when the students are making or exaggerating certain details, or maybe not entirely accurate all they say. But the way I do is all the time I verify the information in their social media, in the information they give us, not only their speech. As a judge, we need to be focused on trying to get the real information, and every team have to do that, have to sell the team like the best. But we need to be real and have the real data. But sometimes it's easy to know when they're making things up, others no. But also we have to get in the greatest professionalism, and we need to trust them also.
Okay.
The other question about what to do if the students don't know the answer, the first thing is to stay calm. If they get stressed or something, they are going to be blocked. So stay calm, and then if you don't understand the question that the judges make, you can ask politely to us to tell again, to repeat or clarify the questions. We are humans, and we always we don't always know the answer. That's easy. Sorry. Also, you can, if you don't know the exact answer, you can tell us something about the question, but not also the to be too accurate. You can give us some information that tell us that you know what you're talking about, and and we can know for that you get involved in that activities or in the season. We can tell about how you answer, if you were if you participate a lot in the season, or you only went to the season. And if I don't be wrong, Ricardo, the other question was the detail in the answer?
How much detail should students give when answering questions? Yeah.
Okay. In the third, I think, the student have to give us some details to get to know what are you talking about, but don't get too deep in that, because in the event, in the regional, the time is limited, and in the interview is more limited. So you can give us the answer, but make it short and make it accurate. And if we question one thing, answer that thing. Don't try to, in one answer, reply a lot of questions, because sometimes we can get confused, and it is not good for the team.
Okay. Thank you, Ranferi, and that's a great tip actually. And many judges would concur that short and sweet is always the best option to answer questions. And also something that sometimes students tend to forget. And let's have in mind that in the end, they are just trying to make the best impression of their team to the judges. So sometimes when trying to do that, you can give some fact which is not accurate at all, or you can somehow put some makeup on the facts and try to pass them as a different thing. But judges, most of the times, are somehow informed of what you've done and what you have on your social media mainly, so they are not completely blank about your team. But let's move on with you, Nick, please.
Yes. So the first question, do judges know if you're making things up? I think the answer is yes, most, if not all of the time. But from the perspective of a judge, it's hard to know when I don't know. But I think, if you're talking to judges, and you don't know the answer to their question, I think there's a couple of things you can do. First, one of the most important things you can do when you start the conversation, before you even get there, is say, hey, this is my name and this is my role on the team. So if you're establishing, hey, I work on the electrical subteam, and the judges are culture award judges, they're going to be a little bit more understanding if you go, hey, I wasn't super involved in that. I focus on the electrical side, but here's what I know. So if you're able to give a basic overview of the outreach programs, and then say, if you want to know more, I can pull in this person in the pit who knows more about it than I do. I think that's a great strategy, but you want to make sure that you're showing that you personally are knowledgeable and familiar with what's going on in the team, even if it's not your area of expertise. Almost no time will anybody on the team know everything that's going on, especially if you have a big team. It's just structurally too hard. But if you're able to show that you know the basics, you know an overview, you can give some detail, you might even know an impressive amount considering. And really, you want to showcase what you do know. Also, I think if you have documentation in your pit, and you can go, hey, they're asking questions about, this outreach program. Hey, we have a binder full of information about our programs. I can tell you what I know and showcase what I know, but also use the binder to cheat a little bit. And also show the judges, some people are they're more auditory learners. Some people are more visual learners. you're also able to like bring both of those modalities together when you do it that way. And the third question was about how much detail to go into. So I think one of the important things to think about is like the constraints and the bigger picture. The judges have a long list of teams and they have a bunch of awards that they need to talk to teams about. So the judges are really managing time. However, like they really want to go into depth in kind of the directions where your team seems to be strong. So I'm a fan of the breadcrumbs approach. So you give an answer to the question that the judge, like that they asked. And you want to give, you really don't want an answer to exceed more than like a minute, but you drop breadcrumbs. So you have little bits of information that you're including that the judge can go, ooh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. And the more of that that you can do, one, if the judge has more time or they're really interested, they can ask follow-up questions. Or they can look in reference material that you've provided. But if they're running low on time, like they can manage that themselves and they can do what makes the most sense in the big picture. So I think those breadcrumbs are really important. And I think that is a great strategy to practice when you're preparing the folks in the pit for judging.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Nick. And we move on now to David, please.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to add on to the great comments already presented. From a judging standpoint, it really is like speed dating. We only have like 10 minutes to talk to each team. So as a judge, I'm trying to get as much information as I can from the team to try to determine what award they might fit into. Okay, so from a team perspective, this is how I coach my team. Start with an award strategy. Make sure you know all the awards inside and out and which ones you want to go after. Then you develop your pit interview strategy. What you want to do is make sure you have students who can talk to all the different items about the awards that you want the judge to be left with. Because ultimately, you want the judges to leave with the same understanding of what awards you are trying to position yourself for as what he's leaving with. Now, to do that, an engineering notebook to me is key. I've been judging so many years that I keep hearing wild claims like we started 15 FRC teams, 35 FTC teams, and we did this all in the past month. Okay, well, I want evidence. I want to see photos. I want to see metrics. I want to see statements from other teams. The engineering notebook is a fantastic way to capture a lot of that information and make it real for the judges. Because ultimately, when you look at awards like Impact and even Woody Flowers and Dean's List, we're looking at numbers. We want to see numbers listed. So I highly encourage teams to have that engineering notebook that's solid. So that way, when you have questions about are they making things up? Well, if you have evidence to point to, you eliminate a lot of that guessing by the judges. In terms of not knowing how to answer, again, if you have a well-prepped pit interview team, they will know which topics they should cover individually or which topics need to be covered by somebody else, and they can respond accordingly. Hey, I'm not the expert in that area, but Joe or whoever, he'll be back in a moment. I'll have him talk to you about that. So that's my advice, to make sure you understand the award strategy, understand the judging process, and develop a pit interview strategy to capture those items.
Okay. Thank you, David. And well, last but not least, Cameron, any expert remarks you may have on the subject?
Gosh, all the other judges have covered most of the points that I want to make so well. I really like Nick's point about breadcrumbs. Let us pull at the important things. Engineering binders are really valuable. When we go back into the judge room, it's really nice to have something tangible to reference. We have a very short amount of time to manage, and we're trying to get all of it as all of the information we need as quickly as possible. one of the points that I want to emphasize is that you're a team. As Nick was saying, everyone on the team generally should be overly, in general, aware of what the team is doing. But if you don't know the specifics about something, that's totally okay. If you don't know the answer, saying you don't know is totally okay. In fact, one of the things that I look for often is what failures you've actually dealt with, and what, not really to look at the failures necessarily, but to look at the things that you learned from those failures and the things that came out of that. If you went and tried a whole bunch of different things and documented all the things you tried and then came out with, this is the one that really worked for us, and we know because we tried all these different things, that's a really powerful story, and we really want to hear about it. And lastly, yeah, we probably have some hunches on if you're making things up, so we don't want to make things up. But also sometimes we don't know. Not all of the judges are experts in all the fields. But similar to your team, we have a team of judges. And if we need that judge that really knows about control systems to come ask you about controls questions, we're going to ask you about controls questions. If we need to know about your business plan and really dig into your numbers, we can do that. We'll spend the time, and we want to make sure that we find the best distribution of these awards that are so important to find the right homes for. And that's our whole goal, is to find the best homes for these awards.
Okay, absolutely, Cameron. Thank you. And for my next round of questions, I'm also going to combine 3 questions. But first of all, I want to read one of the questions on the Q&A section to introduce this part of the roundtable. And this question comes from Raven Van Hoy from Team 2996, and it reads: if it's possible to summarize, when judging, what makes a team stand out the most for an award? If it's too varied, what makes a team look appealing for the higher level FRC awards, like engineering, inspiration, or impact? Now, I think this question could also apply to the higher level awards in FTC. And having this question in mind, I'm gonna read you the 3 questions for this section. What's your position on teams practicing? And I know that David just mentioned that a well-prepared PID interview makes a difference. So maybe you could tell us about what do you think about preparing a PID interview, and if you think it's a good sign or maybe it's not that necessary. Second question: what impresses a judge? And it's correlated to the Q&A section, the Q&A question I just told you. And finally, the long H question: quality or quantity when talking to a judge? So those are the 3 questions I would like to ask you. And to change things a little bit, we'll start with you, Cameron, and we'll take the reversed order for the answers. So please go right ahead.
Well, I guess for me, I'll start simply. I think I prefer quality. It's important to have that depth, but you can't, back to my point about capturing the failures, I do want to see the quantity of work that you've done. It's kind of, they go hand in hand. So it's hard to say one or the other. As far as preparing your interview, I think the most important thing is what makes you the most comfortable. I've had teams that have clearly spent a lot of time preparing, and it felt like they weren't presenting what they really wanted to present, and I couldn't get the interesting things that I thought that they were doing out of it. On the flip side, if you're not prepared and you're kind of meandering around and you don't really have an idea of what awards you're going for or what awards exist, you might not leave those breadcrumbs that are so important to start the conversation. So it's kind of a mix between the two. I will say for impact, for instance, that's a more clear, there's a very clear presentation part of it, and every team has the exact same 5 or 10, I forget exactly the number. But that's a very structured thing, and we should definitely be preparing for those. But in the pits, it's a little bit more long form and open, and including, we might not always meet you in the pits. Maybe we have to find you in the queuing line. Maybe there are some interesting things that just happened on the field, and we want to know what happened. So sometimes that not being prepared is an important part of the information. And I think I'll leave it there for the judges to chime in.
Thank you, Cameron. Please, David.
Okay, so quantity versus quality. Boy, that's a tough one, isn't it? What I would recommend is think about impact more than quantity versus quality. I'd rather know that you did two or three things on the season, like in terms of community outreach, for instance, that had a lot of impact, as opposed to, hey, we did 57 things, but you know, maybe the masses that we impact or reached out to really can't remember. They didn't do anything with that knowledge. So that's going to be a balancing act in terms of quality versus quantity. But like I indicated before, a pit interview, I personally think if you practice enough, you can make it look relaxed. But one of the key things, one of the key intangibles out of a pit interview is it should come across as authentic, but also fun. A fun team is so much more memorable when I go back to the judges' room where, I can talk to the other judges like, hey, boy, that team in yellow, man, they had a lot of fun this season and it showed. So authenticity as to what you did and what you learned, even failures. We don't necessarily want to hear that everything went well. We want to know what you learned along the way. You had a failure, here's how you handled it, and this is what you learned.
Thank you very much, David. Now we move on to Nick.
Yes. So I think quantity versus quality, I almost feel like that's the wrong framing of the question. I think to me, breadth versus depth is the much more interesting framing of essentially the same question. Like, I think to some extent, yes, quality is going to win. Like what David was saying, like the actual impact of what you did is going to be more important than we did big number of things with negligible effect. But like, think about the depth versus breadth trade-off. I think that's a lot more interesting way to view it because you have, did we really, really focus in on our local community? Or have we done all of these different types of things for different communities? Which one of those is better? I personally think doesn't have a right answer. And I think it's a way, if you see a lot of teams doing, hey, we're doing all this international outreach, we're doing all these different types of programs, you going, we do three things simply. I think to some extent, like if you look at 3-2-1, who won Hall of Fame 2 years ago, that's a way that they distinguished themselves. All of their impact was within one city. So I think really looking at that trade-off, depth versus breadth, as a way to distinguish yourself and like where you fit along that spectrum, I think that's a really interesting framing. So in terms of what were the other questions in this section?
Oh, everything regarding to to having a pit interview prepared by the student, and also what impressed the judge overall.
Yes. So I think these two are actually super related. So how do you impress the judges, like in terms of a particular award? The award criteria are published on FIRST's website. You should know them well. And I think to David's earlier point, like you should have a plan. We are going in, we want to win this award. This is our goal. And maybe this other award we want to look good into just kind of as a backup plan. Like that is a good strategy. And that could be, hey, we've noticed we don't think in our region the imagery award is very competitive. So we're going to go hard on imagery. I've seen a team do that. It's really cool. So I think that's one thing that impresses the judges. And I think the other thing to think about, especially if you have bigger events, like there are 2, 3, 4 teams of judges doing the same thing, looking at different teams. So to some extent, your goal is to get those judges so excited about what you're doing that they are your advocates in the judging room. They go, okay, I understand what those other judges saw, but look at this. You need to give them, one, the passion to do that and make that argument, but you also need to give them the information to make that argument. So I think that is really your goal. And I think that's something like practice helps you do that better. Now, I think there are ways to practice badly and you don't want to be like scripted, I think that can come off as really like flat and dimensionless, but you want to be passionate. Like you all are here, you're on a team, you're putting all this crazy hard work in for build season for a reason. And you should share that passion with the judges. You want to excite them. That should be your goal. You want to inform them and excite them. And you should practice that. And doing that in small chunks of time, like dropping those breadcrumbs. My team has a list of talking points in the pit. Like we go, hey, our goal is to win this award. So these are the things we need to talk about with the judges. If they're robot judges, our goal is this award. If they're culture judges, it's these awards. So I think really like coming in with a plan, practicing well, and I think good practice. Like give an adult who's like maybe a mentor on your team that's like not familiar with that particular area, like give like a business mentor a set of robot criteria. Have them ask the kids who are going to be in your pit those questions and see what they get from it. Practice that way, and I think you'll really be able to identify where are the places you can grow in executing against your plan. And I think I'll leave it there.
Yep. Thank you, Nick. And if I may highlight something from what you just said, and the dangers of being over scripted as a student. And I know this from experience is that if you are over scripted, the moment a judge tries to take you out of your script, you're done. You're doomed because you won't know how you won't know how to answer. So that's the main danger of being over scripted. And many judges who realize that their students are talking to is over scripted will try to take you out of your script just to see how you don't know how to answer something out of your script, or maybe just
1000%.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, as a judge, you're expecting a kid to be non-scripted in a fun competition, a fun robotics competition. So just be wary of that, everyone. And well, Ramferi, just any extra remarks you may have on this topic?
In quality and quantity, Ricardo, I think for me, quality is one of the important things as the others judge, because I like to see how teams maintain the impact of the activities during a period of time. Not only the first year they decide to do that activity, instead of how do they maintain that activity for 5, 6, 7 years, and helping the community, schools, and individual members of the teams. That's why I like the quality. It's more easy to, I think, to be more where the judges can see more in quality than in quantity. Quantity can be 60 things in a year, but the other year you can make 10. So I prefer quality. What impressed the judges, the passion that the team members give us when they try to explain something. The time when there is the presentation or the interview, as David, I think, said, we like the team to have fun. If they can be natural in their speaking and be relaxed, it's more easier to us for remember them in the ways we need to ask the questions. Also, if the team are prepared in practice, to practice, I think the team has more possibilities to get an award because they aim to something. If someone gets in the interview or speaking to a judge in the pit, and you don't have a plan or you aim to all the awards, it's difficult to get one if you aim to all of them. You need to get the top 3 awards you wanted, and from that you need to start making the decisions how you're going to make the presentation, how you're going to let some judge in the pit, and also if you need, I think practice is good, but you need to get in the way that you practice but be natural when you speak to us, because how have you said, if you overscript, is kind of bad sometimes for the team because they can be blocked or get so nervous that they don't know how to react after that. And also I like to compliment only as a judge. I like to see how the team get involved in the community with all the schools and the team members and all the activities that they have done. Sorry, I like to see how they have done it for years, not only one. That's how I measure the impact real in community. 1 year, it's the best thing for a start. But if you want to continue the impact and compete for some awards, I think to maintain is the best way.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rafael. Thank you. Thank you to each one of you for being here. We are actually out of time, but just to wrap this up, to wrap the first day of the event, anything you would like teams to know before they answer your questions? We are 2 days prior to the kickoff. So your final tip or your final piece of advice for all students who you will be judging in the upcoming weeks. So let's start with you, Cameron, please.
We're all human. We all make mistakes. It's okay if you make a mistake. It's okay. Sometimes judges make mistakes, but we're all a team and we all try to catch each other.
Thank you, Cameron. David.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the teams understand that you've heard 4 different points of view. Just because you follow the advice of one or all 4 of us doesn't mean you're going to win. All we can do is give general advice that will help position you to be a good state to be able to win an award. Every judging panel that I've been on has been completely different personalities, different likes. There have been times I thought there is no possible way anyone could vote for a team other than this one team, just to find out everyone else was going the opposite direction. It happens. But just be aware that our advice is general. It's not to be taken as if we do these things, we will win an award.
Thank you, David. Nick.
So I think one thing that's worth remembering too is like you as a team member, maybe it's your first time talking to judges, maybe you've been doing it for 2 or 3 years, but the same is true of judges. Like in a pair, in a trio of judges, it's very possible that you have somebody who's a rookie judge and they're nervous and like they want to help all the teams, but like they're feeling those same nerves that you are. Like I think really the humanity of the process is something that gets lost behind the blue shirts. Like really remember, maybe the judges, like maybe there's one who's nervous too. And like you can kind of manage that and like be really yourself, be really honest and open. And I think that's diffusing of those kinds of situations for them and for you. So don't try to be something that you're not and just be yourself.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you, Nick. And finally, Ranferi, last piece of advice.
Yeah, as they said, we're humans. Don't be scared about the judge. We also, in the past, we were in your shoes. So if you have some questions, ask us. We can help you. And don't be scared. Be passionate through all the season. Be happy in the season and the activities that you've done, that you will do in the season. Do it with your heart, not for an award. And maybe if the advices that we gave you today, as David said, is not how to win an award. Is our experience through being judged, and there are many judges. So hopefully we'll see one of you in some of regional, and I wish you the best of the luck to all of us, to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ranferi. Thank you, Cameron Jacqueline, David Price, Nick Hames, and Ranferi Lozano. We wish you the best of luck in this upcoming judging season at FRC, FTC, FLL, event. And well, best of luck to your teams as well if you're also a mentor. And hopefully we'll see you at our pits. And before anything else, just give me a smile for the screenshot, please. 1, 2, and 3. There you go. Thank you very much for being in warm up, and hopefully we'll have you with us in the upcoming years. Thank you very much. Have a nice day and a happy new year. Okay, everyone, and with this, we are now closing our first day of the FRC warm up. The whole organizing team of the warm up, as well as teams Servotics, Space Cookies, and Under Control. Thank you very much for your attendance today. Remember to join us tomorrow for our second and final day of the warm up. And as always, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.